I remember when I was a kid, I played like Learn to Fly, Learn to Fly 2, and eventually Learn to Fly 3. I remember waiting for updates on that game every single day, and then, it was fun. Learn to Fly 3 is a fun game. Um, but it's kind of um, compared to Learn to Fly, it's kind of mid. Like, compared to Learn to Fly 2, which is a fantastic experience of a game, Learn to Fly 3 is just okay, which is still good. Like, it's still a great game. And I would recommend it to anyone who enjoyed Learn to Fly 2. But I remember playing those games. I remember playing games like Burrito Bison. I remember playing games like Bloons Super Monkey 2. I was obsessed with upgrade games. I remember typing into Google every so often, upgrade games, upgrade games. Like, I didn't want idle games. I wasn't looking for cookie clickers or stuff like that. I was looking for this kind of game where there's a gameplay loop and you increment on it by upgrading your character with rewards. Trolley Hero is another great game. Shopping cart hero, shopping trolley hero, whatever the game is called, where you're in the trolley and you like buy stuff to upgrade, and you do better by upgrading. I love those styles of games, and as a kid I couldn't get enough of them. I played a ton of shitty mobile ones, and I was always like, why can't these be as good as the ones that I played on my computer? And eventually I played them all, and I played Learn to Fly 2 to death. I got to the point where anyone else would quit, and I didn't stop there. I played that game, some would say an irregular amount. I would say an irregular amount. It would probably be an accurate way to describe it. I really liked that game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I spent a lot of time with it. And to me, as an adult, I'm not super into the upgrade games. I still find this like gameplay loop quite fun, but it needs to have something more substantial attached to it, which is why roguelikes are great, because the gameplay is different every time, and very many of them are built around the idea of upgrading your character, and synergistically kind of getting new powers for your character. Like Isaac does that. Isaac is completely built around that mechanic of getting new things that interact in different ways. It's a fun gameplay loop. I feel like roguelikes are the upgrade games of today, which is weird, right? It's a weird thing to say because, first of all, when this game came out, Flash Isaac existed. So like, it's not like this game's doing a new thing, or it's not like this game's doing something that Isaac then picked up on and capitalized on. Like, Isaac existed. I feel like Isaac today is a very different game to Flash Isaac. I mean, that's obvious. I think the degree to which they're different has to be stated. It's not like Flash Isaac is a prototype or an old version of what current Isaac is. They're completely different games, and the gameplay loop is similar, but just the sheer amount of content in New Isaac, the sheer amount of decisions you have to make, makes it almost not similar at all. It feels like a completely new game, and it's a better game. I like New Isaac more, but it's overwhelming. I can't play New Isaac anymore. When it was just Rebirth and Afterbirth Plus, like those versions of Isaac, I wish they still existed. To some extent they do, but the free DLCs, like Repentance, I think that's a free DLC. At least for the there have been like free updates and stuff. It's like there's so much content that was added to the game when I wasn't looking. There's so much stuff that got added when I wasn't paying attention that I feel overwhelmed to start again. I feel like I can't just go into a new run of Isaac, because that game that existed where I was so familiar with it, it looks very similar, it plays very similar, but I'm no longer as familiar anymore. But I'm not saying it's been taken from me or anything, because this Isaac is better. More content is better, and I know that's not always true in roguelikes, because the problem occurs when you have a game like Balatro, where it's a very finely balanced game. And there are issues with Balatro's balance, but it is a very finely balanced game, and adding new content, adding new, like, jokers and stuff is probably going to happen. It is probably going to happen. It's going to affect... I think it's going to affect the balance of the game quite a lot. It's something they really need to tune into, because by adding new stuff to Balatro, you really, really, really don't want to take away the thing that was already there. Now, what's the solution for that? You could always let people down patch, or better yet, make those cards optional in-game. And what are the potential issues with that? Not really much. I would say that's like a perfect solution to that problem. So it's something I hope that the devs, well, the dev behind Balatro considers when you know, making future updates. But I feel like I trust the Balatro dev to, like, do a good job, because it seems to be working. I mean, the Among Us stuff was handled perfectly. It's just a skin, right? It's just a skin. And I think, like, it's weird now that every indie game is a collab. They start off as their own thing, and they get so popular that they put Shovel Knight in, or they put Among Us in. Like, that's just a thing that happens these days. And it's weird that every indie game is simultaneously also a collab with other indie games. But I think those kinds of things are important for legacy purposes, because we're not talking about, you know, I think there are indie games that have an identity of their own, but I don't think it's a bad thing at all that these games are interacting with each other and adding new content based on each other. I think it's good that they can grow and kind of develop in that way. Obviously, I don't want it to overshadow the point, but I think, like, the Among Us Henry Stickmin collab was really tasteful. I know it's barely a collab because they're, like, the same studio, but they're still different games. They're still different games. I think that the Balatro stuff was really tasteful. In my opinion, that was done extremely, like, considerately. And I do use the Among Us skins when I play Balatro these days. I've been playing it a little bit less recently. It's not like Balatro fell out of my favor or anything, it's just... Unlike, is it called Anti? Unlike the, no, Ascension. I was thinking of Magic again. Unlike Ascensions in Slay the Spire, it really feels like the higher stakes in Balatro are just meant to punish you. Like, I like Eternal Jokers, but I really don't love the discount or, like, rental jokers, stuff like that. Like, those, for me, they do change the way that I play the game, but it almost just makes me upset to see cards that I would normally enjoy building around. And you can argue that that adds a little skill, but there's also stakes that are just like, you get one less discard. It's like, okay, that just sucks. Like, that's not as fun to play around. And by giving me fewer discards, you're actually making the decision of whether I should discard here. Like, you're taking away some of the decision making in the game because I have fewer discards to work with. So let's say I have 3 discards, I make the first 2, and now I'm like, oh, I am very like closely considering whether I should use that last discard. And if I have 4 discards, then, you know, same consideration, should I use that 3rd discard? But the results of that 3rd discard allow me to, you know, make a decision on the 4th one. And there's all sorts of things that give you more discards, but those are usually not good cards. They're usually not jokers that you would take. So what, you just end up like having fewer discards and trying to build around a high card build again? Like something that encourages you not to discard at all? Obviously you still discard in high card because you want your like steel joker or steel cards in hand and stuff like that, but like it still feels kind of, you know, less skillful to just build the same thing all the time, but it's so extremely good. Anyway, this game is actually really slow. I don't remember it being like this painful the first time I played it, like when I was a kid. I feel like it was a lot more engaging, but right now I feel like I'm not getting rewards on my cash nearly as soon as I want. Feels like everything is priced just a bit too expensive. Remember when remember when Flash games had like cheat versions? When people would open the Flash project and like give you infinite money or something, and they would host that on their own website as like Burrito Bison hack. And it's like, okay. I do remember those. I remember liking them quite a bit, just to fool around in games that I had already kind of, you know, played to death. And to be clear, among Flash games, there were many that I had just played to death. It was the national pastime for bored children in computing science.